the recording. And let's continue, like, I think this was Edgerika pixel art outline, huh? Huh. Well, it's better than anything that I could do, so... Possible emote. Well, let's keep that in mind. I don't know if we can change the emotes at any point, but let's keep that in mind. Anyway.
覚えてないの？
意識がなくなってからのことは全然。
My body had become more lethargic than I could ever have imagined. I guess that would be the expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there. I tried to at last clear my head, but I just couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind. Rena is a good girl. There's nothing bad going on. Just, do I have Rena headpats? I don't think I have Rena headpats. I don't have Rena headpats. Unfortunate.
一応お医者さんにも電話したから、もうすぐ来ると思うよ。それまで横になってた方がいいと思うな。
Rena is such a good girl. I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing that someone impartial was coming was slightly reassuring.
俺どうしてここにいるんだ。確かダム現場で。
それはレナが聞きたいな。
Yes, we're good. Yeah, it's lovely.
何があったのかな。レナが行った時にはケイチ君倒れてて。
だから聞きたいのは俺の方だよ。変な二人組に襲われて。
As I talked about it, I finally remembered what happened right before I passed out. Recalling that memory and the terror that went along with it caused the fogginess around my head to clear right up. Let's forget about those two for now. I didn't expect Rena to be nursing me. I thought Rena was trying to kill me. She should have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she had nursed me back to health.
よく俺を引きずってここまで来れたな。重かったろ。
Looking at Rena's delicate frame, it was hard to believe that she had not only gotten me back home, but even dragged me all the way up to the second floor. Did she have some help?
ケイチ君、覚えてないの？
Rena appeared a bit surprised, but still kept her smile.
レナはケイチ君に肩を貸しただけだよ。
How suspicious.
大丈夫、自分で歩けるってケイチ君が。覚えてない？
I didn't remember. My memory was fuzzy after the point where I lost consciousness.
二人組はどうした？レナが来た時、俺と一緒に、あるいはそばに二人組の男が。
いなかったよ。
She said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. It was just too timid at that time. I was just too timid at that time. I might have been able to force some answers out of Rena. But if I did that, then this kind Rena might transform into the scary Rena who I didn't know. Fearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it, it was the obvious choice. If both of those men were there, I don't think Rena would have even stood a chance. I couldn't find a way to explain it unless I assumed she brought me here after those two were already gone. Rena was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. Yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. That small omen sent shivers down my spine. While Rena was still Rena, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Oishi-san. Rena stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep.
トイレに行きたいんだけどな。
ごめん。
Rena couldn't say anything else. While Rena stayed in the room, I quickly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. When I approached the front door, the doorbell rang ding dong. It must have been the doctor Rena had called. It was strange for a patient to welcome in the doctor who was making a house call, but it would be incredibly reassuring to have him here for the considerable time it would take to Oishi-san to get here. I carelessly opened the door with that simple assumption and regretted it almost instantly. Oh gee, I wonder who it could be.
ミオン。
あれ元気そうだね。倒れてたって言うから様子見に来たんだけど。
What a surprise.
なんで俺が倒れてたって知ってるんだよ。
Neon hype.
レナが電話してきたから。他に理由が必要？
I understood why she would call a doctor. But why Neon too? Rena was descending the stairs behind me.
レナ、ケイちゃん大丈夫そうだよ。たく、心配して損した。
そうだね。
The two of them together in the same hallway. That brings back bad memories.
レナも心配して損したかな。
They are very nice, aren't they? They are just two sweet girls. But they both began laughing. It appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was darkness looming over them.
うわ、なにこの下駄箱。どうしてたの？
The shoe rack that I'd smashed to pieces had been like that since yesterday.
転んでさ、その拍子に持ってたバットで叩いちゃったんだよ。
持ち慣れないもん振り回してるからこういうことになるんだよ。
I kept the fact that it was none of her business to myself.
でもこれじゃおばさまたちが帰ってきたらびっくりしちゃうね。後でレナが片付けておくね。
Oh, Rena is so sweet. Oh. The shoe rack should bring back happy memories. Yeah, very happy memories. The presence in the hallway, ever haunting, ever smiling.
さあ、ほらケイちゃん。重病人なんだからちゃんと寝てないとダメだよ。
Terminal ill.
さあさあ、お布団に戻った。
Both of them urged me up the stairs. I had no chance to call Oishi-san. I was pushed into my bed. As it was the first time Mion had been in my room, she began searching around it intently. Huh. Okay, I can't remember what I predicted, so my memory is like really poor, so... Really poor. But that's just for the better, so I will be surprised again. She filled around my room and was scolded by Rena. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign that it was heartwarming. During that innocent conversation, Mion said something as though it was perfectly ordinary.
レナ、監督には電話した？
Oh?
みーちゃんに電話した後すぐにね。すぐ来るって言ってたよ。
Manager? That out of place word gave me a bad feeling. Then I called a doctor, then called Mion, and after that she called a manager? Who was this manager? Since Rena and Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd.
二人とも何の話をしてるんだよ。監督ってなんだよ。
ケイちゃんしんどいの？
I have no idea who they're
監
talking
督
about.
って言ったら監督だよ。
映画の監督とか工事現場の監督とか
Oh no, that laughter. I dug through all of my memories for a manager who might have business with me. Only one thing came to mind. What Rena had just said. The construction site foreman. Party time! Nobody is home, time to party. That's how it usually goes, at the very least in our place. I think. Not that I would know. Damn construction site. The very first victim of the first incident, the dismemberment at the damn construction site, the foreman. But that was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There was no way they could call him.
お前らが何の話をしてるのかわからないよ。その監督が俺と何か関係あるのか？来るって言ったけど、うちに来るのか？
I asked one obvious question after another. But all the two of them did was smile coolly at each other. There was a huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly I felt discomfort and panic welling up inside me. I couldn't understand what Rena and Mion were talking about.
ケイちゃん、最近は野球に凝ってるんだよね。監督、それ聞いたら喜ぶと思うな。
Oh.
だから監督って誰だよ？
監督は監督さんだよ。
That laughter is creepy.
だから監督って誰だよ
？Yeah, disturbing. Rena and Mion looked at each other and laughed haughtily. That disturbing gaggle unpleasantly resounded around me. That laugh, long enough to be unsettling, ended abruptly.
そうだ。監督が来る前に済ませとくかな。ケイちゃん、覚えてるかい？
Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a different story.
覚えてるって何をだよ？
ケイチくん忘れちゃったのかな。罰ゲームなんだよ。罰ゲームなんだよ。忘れちゃったのかな。
Yeah, they are having fun. This is gonna probably get... This is a bad omen.
おはぎの宿題。どれがレナの作ったおはぎかを当てる宿題。あれ、確か宿題忘れだったよね。
I certainly did have that homework, but I had thrown away the rest of the mochi after I found that sewing needle, so I wasn't able to answer which one Rena made. The penalty for that? Why now? Oh boy. No doubt my question was written all over my face. Their answer to my question was that dry laughter. I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think that this entire day was somehow insane. Strange. Incomprehensible. Being chased by Rena. Attacked by strange men. The penalty that Mion and Rena were talking about. What were those two laughing at? It didn't take that long for me to realize I had been dragged into an abnormal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who were these doppelgangers of Rena and Mion? New ringtone. Yeah. Really weird penalty game. It will be them. It will be a threesome. That's a really bad penalty. Rena had gotten behind me at some point. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back?
何の真似だよ？
動かないでね。罰ゲームだから。
My body was already very sluggish, and Rena pinning my arms made it that much harder to move. Sure. Sure, we can do that. That sounds like fun. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength, it would have been impossible for the Rena that I knew. Then these thin, frail arms grasping me firmly. Whose arms were they?
ケイちゃん、抵抗しちゃダメだよ。海賊大何条でもいいや。罰ゲームに抵抗しちゃダメなんだからさ。
Mion, no, that thing that looked like Mion, spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me. But I was certain that this was not Mion. Someone who wasn't Mion, someone who was just pretending to be Mion.
監督が来る前に済まさないとね。
Mion fished into her pockets and pulled out something bizarre. I could tell what it was just by looking, but for such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind wouldn't accept it.
なんだよそれ。
It was a small syringe. It was a small clear syringe like what a doctor would use when you went to him when you were sick. Rena helped me even tighter. And I could hear that clattering laughter that no longer sounded like laughter blaring into my ear. That eerie laughter, it wasn't something that Rena I knew would ever produce on her own from her own throat. This thing that was pretending to be Rena, was this their real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion was holding drew closer. And that needle tip was waved in front of my face countless times.
大丈夫大丈夫。痛くないから痛くないから。
The hallucinations have gotten rather absurdly extreme.
何をする気だよ。これは一体何の真似だよ。
ケイちゃん、何言ってんだか。
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
分かってんでしょ。
何が俺には何が何やらさっぱりわ
A
かん
lot
ね
of
えよ。
double negatives.
知ってるくせに。今さらかまととぶられてもな。
わけのわからないことを言って俺を煙に巻くのはやめろ。
富武さんと同じ目に遭ってもらう。
Oh. Well. That's fun. That's just great. Except, I think we know what exactly is going on. At least those who know the answer arc should know what's going on. And even I have a clue. Even if I don't remember exactly the answer, I think I have a pretty good idea what's going on. This clue wasn't in the anime. Huh. Considering that it's rather crucial. It's probably going to be like... In reality, it would probably that instead of syringe, it's probably a permanent marker. And it would be just Mion writing something on his shirt. Probably like a ladyboy or something. Because that would be fun. But yeah, this is lovely. The same as Tomitake-san? I didn't really understand what she meant. What did that have to do with this syringe?
ケイチ君、とぼけてるね。うすうすは気づいてたくせに。
Rena whispered into my ear, laughing as if to admonish me. Running away from his friends, getting into new hobbies like swinging a baseball bat. Yeah, that's been pretty edgy. Really edgy. Whoa, new hobbies? Holy shit. But even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare. Playing dumb? Me? About what? What do you mean the same as Tomitake-san?
みんな初めはひき逃げされたものだと思っていました。ですが、意識を確かめるために近づいた警官はすぐに異常に気づきました。喉がね、引き裂かれていたんですよ。
ナイフとか？
いいえ、爪でした。
Nails? Nails as in fingernails? With those gouged through? That's right. Tomitake-san had clawed out his own throat with his own nails and died. There's no way someone could die like that. So then, for that to happen...
薬物を疑いましたが、そういう類のものは検出できませんでした。
That's right. That's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tomitake's system.
警察は富武さんの遺体から薬物は検出できなかったって言ったぞ。
The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they'd laugh. To assume such a medicine didn't exist just because the police didn't know about it was completely foolish. Meaning, the drug that caused Tomitake-san to die in such a bizarre manner did exist. If Mion injected this into me, then that would probably be all the proof that I needed. That would basically mean I'd end up the same as Tomitake-san. Become hysterical, scratching out my throat in my last moments, then die. For such an outrageous drug to exist, for Mion to be holding it, and that I was about to be injected with it. At that moment I did not feel there was any need whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying straight for his face, has time to think of a reason as to why it's flying at him?
観念しなって。んじゃ。
Mion's actions lacked any gravitas, and that made it even more terrifying. I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. There was none of the ceremony like when someone is sentenced to death. There was no hesitation at all, as if she were brushing her teeth. Mion reached out with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through the back of my head and the entire world had gone dark. Did I stand up too fast? Or did someone hit me really hard in the back of the head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. Okay. Casual horror. Yes, they must have been rather horrified about what actually happened. It's quite shocking. I squatted down for a bit, then I came back to my senses. When I came back to my senses, my entire room had changed drastically. The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly I could tell blood was flowing to my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or has it been hours? It was almost as if the hands on the clock had stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time passed. Really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before, only dull silence. Then I wasn't there pinning my arms and Rion wasn't there about to inject me with a needle. No way. Could it be? All of it was a hallucination? There was no other presence in the room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I'd ever had. I was certainly with Rena and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. I guess that terrible ordeal was a hallucination. Neither Rena nor Mion, they wouldn't ever do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. I don't understand. Kind to everyone, not discriminating against age or gender. Mion. That Mion was... Well, shit. I had no recollection of this whatsoever. Holy shit. That Mion was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her deep red hair a deep red from her head down to her chest. The bright crimson smeared on the walls. That splatter had undoubtedly come from Mion. She always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day that I transferred. Rena. That same Rena was slumped at my feet and was making the same pool of blood as Mion. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come to save me? Then they beat these two down with this metal bat. I finally noticed the weight in my hand, right hand. How long had it been there? It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in deep red. There was no doubt that this was the weapon used to mutilate both of them. Can we have a new picture? Holy shit, that's good. We are getting some good pictures out of the manga. Holy shit. Let me just change the umbrella gif because that is, I don't feel is very fitting for this. Everyone, take a look at this picture. It is... Look at that picture. Replace the picture with another picture with that. Yeah, that's... That picture looks amazing. Holy shit. That's... rather unfortunate, to say the least. The look on Keiichi's face is just unimaginable. It's just amazing. Yeah, the umbrella gif is pretty tame by comparison. Definitely. Oh, I just drank my beer. Let me open another one. Beer. There, beer. Beer. And I was holding that weapon. I was the only person in the house. Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. That's right. Keiichi Maebara. Of course I did it. I told myself gently as if coaxing myself. Eating rice with Pepsi. Good meal. Yeah, sounds very healthy. Hey me, there's no reason for you to remember it, nor is there a need to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you? It's pretty hard to get, like, to draw this much blood with a blunt instrument. Like, look at all of the sprays of blood. Like, holy shit, that requires so much effort. That takes some guts to get, like, to do. That's pretty hard. Definitely not speaking from experience or something, you know. Neither Rena or Mion had moved an inch. It wasn't just a split forehead and a trickle of blood, nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me it didn't end with just 2 or 3 strikes. The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. What happened to your usual calm self? Come on now. Do like you always do. Throw your head back and take a deep breath. Yeah, it's... Rena is just completely red from the head down. That's... Or her head is just completely red. It's pretty... Or black in this picture, but you know. Take a deep breath. Come on. Once, twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. Calm down. I chanted that over and over in my head and relaxed. Color came back to my vision and smells reinfused the air. At the same time, I remembered what happened when I blacked out. Both Rena and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomitake-san. Yeah, head wounds do bleed quite a bit actually. That's a really good point actually. Like, they do, but still, that amount of blood is... Even with blunt, I'm just mainly pointing out that with blunt instrument, it's really hard to draw that much blood. Like, the amount of blood is pretty hard. They introed this arc. Yeah. Oh my god. The intro. Holy shit, I remember it. It makes so much sense now. It was probably from Rena's point of view. Oh, wow. Or Mion's. Oh, wow. Holy shit, the intro is bad in retrospect. Oh, wow. Good thing that you reminded me of that. But right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Rena as she was spinning my arms. Then I followed through with my spin and rammed my foot as hard as I could into Rimion's torso. It was soft. Rena tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat that was left carelessly by the side of my desk. Weep. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape of my mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing recorded. It was recorded just fine. It's just, yeah, the other me inside myself had told me not to look and had turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it, didn't mean that the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. The TV was just off. The video was still playing. The tape within me, creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, that horrifying video was still playing on. Compared to this though, the scene right before my eyes, was still so difficult to take in. There was blood splattered everywhere on the two walls, and two of them in these unnatural poses. Not a sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were, my friends, these girls, I had attacked them. I may have even killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that out on an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I'd even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive, this was justifiable self-defense. The proof was all here. The two of them collapsed here on Mion's syringe. Mion's syringe filled with some unknown drug that would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomitake-san. And from the fact that both of these two were involved, they'd be able to pick out the criminals one after the other. Still, I might be suspected for this. But that was just fine. Anyway, now this should be a police affair. This wouldn't fade into the darkness like Rena's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Oishi-san would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning why my wish of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth that would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It was all a matter of time now. The Dr. Rena called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I needed to contact Oishi-san. At that moment I remembered. Besides the doctor, a manager had been called. It was easy to imagine that they were someone deeply involved with the incidents, judging from Rena's and Mion's conversation. The ache in my chest caused by the gruesome deed I'd done dissipated rapidly. It was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. They called me Geiichi Maebara. It's not over yet. I needed to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. Since people were speaking, it must mean there was more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me at the dam site today. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door. Pretend to be the doctor and to get me to open the door, then the rest of them would all rush in at once. At that moment I saw the car parked behind the men and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van. No mistaking it. That van, the one that had tried to run me down. The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed towards the front door. Yes, what a pleasant afternoon. Indeed, nothing bad could ever happen in this pleasant neighborhood. Everything just hunky-dory. Nothing bad whatsoever. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. I probably couldn't pretend that I wasn't home. Undoubtedly they'd just break the window and enter. I needed to get out of here somehow. Then use a public phone to contact Oishi-san. Then meet up somewhere. First of all I need a weapon. Then shoes. But before all of that, there was one thing that I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I'd live and reveal the truth about this nonsensical curse of Oyashiro-sama. But that would happen from here on. What would happen from here on, regardless of how determined I was, may bring about my demise. And that was why there was one thing more important than getting out of here right now. I needed to get that clock out quickly and take down the note behind it, hidden behind it. Damn it. The tape was sticking to it fast. It would be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If I wasn't able to inform Oishi-san, then the only thing I could rely on was this note. I'd never thought a piece of torn, college-ruled notebook paper could be this reliable before. I had no time. I'd only write what I knew right now. I needed to leave some sort of information that would leave them to uncover the truth. Rena and Mio are conspirators of the perpetrators. This was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it, but it was a fact. 897. What? That's weird. A random string of numbers. Anyway, I'd leave all the information that would help lead them to finding the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This was everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. Also, there was that unidentified person known as the manager. To begin with, the term manager didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the managers from the past incidents, Then the only one is the construction foreman, the victim from the first murder. The very first victim in the chain of incidents. Killed in lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Rena and Mion did both call him manager. Oh, no worries. I was like, are you giving me some sort of cryptic clue? Because that's exactly the kind of clues that I give during D&D, so... Anyway, they said manager. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who was dead. The police would never even conceive that someone who was deceased could be involved. Would that be some sort of oversight? I didn't know. But even if I didn't know, it could be a big hint for Oishi-san. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of this string of mysterious deaths that would follow. So then there must be something hidden there. Please reinvestigate the victim from the dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should have been established after an autopsy. Very, very cryptic. I mean, I've been given a random string of numbers and a book and told to figure it out. And I was able to figure out a 5-letter word from that and open a puzzle box based on that. So, it's not that cryptic. His death should have been established after an autopsy. Logically, you would think that as much. But was that really the case? Could it have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah, there's something even more important I needed to write. Tomitake-san's death was from an unknown drug. That's right, that drug. It was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt just by having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue lying on the floor. This syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe onto the back of the clock with plenty of tape. So it absolutely would not slip out and fall the floor firmly. The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write anymore. But even still, there was one last thing that I had to write. I had no idea why it has become like this. I have no idea why it has become like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I've wrote on this note. If you are reading this, then I am probably already dead. Though you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that could happen, either dying from the curse or being demoned away. You who are reading this. I kind of replaced the words, huh? Please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. It wasn't certain that I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck it back onto the back of the clock, and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray. Oishi-san, if something happens to me, I'll leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Rena and Mion. This was probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Rena, Mion.
俺みんなのこと本当に友達だと思ってたんだぜ。
But why did it end up like this? I never had any fun in my previous school. I only worried about standardized test scores, about if the school I hoped to get into was where I really wanted to go or a safety net. That was all I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I called friends were also my rivals in studying, in competitions, in personal records and standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month was really fun. Making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over the club, making a fuss over the festival. Something hot began dripping down from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have had no obligation to shed tears for them. but they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life. Even if they were trying to kill me. Everything that had happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Or could it be those happy days were all a facade as well? Was it all a trap, meticulously orchestrated up until today to ensnare me? Could it have been that I had just arbitrarily assumed that they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case. Both Rena and Mion, they were really my friends. Those happy days, there was nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try and kill me. Or something, their minds were taken over, possessed by the supernatural entity known as Oyashiro-sama. Regardless, both Rena and Mion, they were the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. Wait, they weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends, regardless of whether or not they were forced. There's no way such a thing could like being possessed by Oyashiro-sama could happen in reality. Then did the real Rena and Mion come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly dumb idea. Having beaten down both Rena and Mion, I was still debating if they were the real ones or fakes. There was no real or fake, only the reality that was before me. Rena and Mion were sprawled out at my feet, that was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the fact to my benefit that I had beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change reality. Rena and Mion were both dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like my calm state, which was nothing more than a bluff, had receded, and in that opening, insanity was leaking out. I killed them. Rena and Mion. Yeah, the doctor must be quite patient. I killed them. The doorbell rang again. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. Whenever there's a moment of silence, I have to take a sip. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever had pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass. I would survive. I would definitely survive. I killed Rena for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living. So I can't die. For my sake and for the sake of the late Rena and Mion. I have to survive. I ran towards the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again, as if to urge me on. Behind this single solitary door, they were there. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the kitchen. Headed towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one? After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly so as to not make a sound. Jesus Christ, a jump scare. A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here, Keiichi. One after the other, I felt stuff like rationale and intelligence, those things you use when you have time to spare, spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms and forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart also felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. It probably had no complaints whatsoever. So of course I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran. Just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if nobody was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind about where I was headed. Turning around, I felt a presence right next to me. That presence was without a doubt chasing me like my shadow. If I took even one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran at full speed. At the speed of sound. Running around at the speed of sound. Got places to go, gotta follow my rainbow. Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack. That was one was the chirping of the Higurashi telling me it was evening. Trying to tell me something, and then finally I heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? Quack, 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 quack. Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So I ran towards where I could hear more of the Higurashi's chirps. But the further I ran, the further away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. Sorry. I'm 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 sorry. I felt that only the Higurashi knew. Oh? Well, that was a faster... Well, not a chapter, but faster part. Oh, it's Chased by Shadows. Achievement unlocked. The smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down this corridor where the sun didn't even reach? I recalled hearing that the tax revenue from tobacco was about a tenth of municipality's revenue. We were the most heavily taxed members of this municipality, so I really wish they'd show us a little more respect.
どうしてこれがウーマン切りなんすか？
It's gonna be really hard going through the next parts when I have no way to actually take pauses during the dialogue.
街が狭くなっちゃうっすよ。
One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with the Mahjong magazine called Next Turn.
ウーマン切ってもテンパイ崩れませんから。海底にかけるなら両面で受けた方がチャンスあるんじゃないですか？
クマちゃん、川を見てください。ウーマンは全員切ってますから安牌なんですよ。終盤で K 点に走った誰かがダマで待ってたら嫌でしょ。
The kid let out another groan, put out his cigarette, then took out another one.
納得いかないっすね。わざわざ自分で当たり牌減らすなんて。
ちなみに配定で当たり牌出しても論しちゃダメですよ。
え、どうしてですか？
Just then, I heard a voice coming from down the hall.
大石さん、いますか？一般の方から凱旋です。
ありゃ、こりゃどうも。それじゃ、ちょいと失礼。
どうして論しちゃダメなんすか？あ、待ってくださいよ、大石さん。
The man sitting in the seat Oishi-san was heading towards waved at the telephone receiver.
凱旋です。講習から。
どうもすいません。お待たせしました。大石です。
FBO? What's an FBO? I have no idea what an FBO game is. Oh well.
もしもし、
大石さんですか？もしもし。
前原さんじゃありませんか。どうもどうも、こんにちは。
From the tone Mabara-kun's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. This was the first time Mabara-kun had phoned me. Oh, person Oishi. Okay. And he was calling from a payphone.
落ち着いてください。何がありました？
Okay, thanks for that explanation.
その、
His voice was erratic over the line. He had completely lost his sense of composure. After checking that nobody else could hear, I prompted him in a hushed tone.
何があったんです？
俺。
Lovely.
落ち着いて前原さん。今そこに近場の警官を行かせます。私もすぐそっちに行きますよ。
その、多分、無理です。
His voice was quavering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people even as he was making this call, was he?
前原さんは今公衆電話からかけてますよね。どこの公衆電話ですか？
There were no other sounds besides Maibara-kun's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched out a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hinamizawa phone booth. He understood quickly and hastily started on the internal lines.
落ち着いて前原さん。今どういう状況なんです？
It usually wasn't a good idea to tell someone panicking to do so, but this was not a usual case. Maibara-kun didn't just get in trouble, get away, and then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now. But yelling at Maibara-kun right now would just needlessly cause him to be even more frantic. Maibara-kun wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell us something more than that. And whatever that was, if I didn't get it from this call, I was certain there would never be another chance. My colleague pushed a note in front of me. There's only one phone booth in Hinamizawa. A patrol car is on the way. 5 minutes.
かかりすぎです。警らには何人乗ってます？
2人です。
Not enough. If it was as I imagined, there were likely quite a few people surrounding Maibara-kun. 5 minutes was too long.
南沢の駐在さんには電話しました。
定時巡回の時間です。家人は留守で連絡不能。
Why is there no connection to a... Oh right, it's the older days. Oh right. Right.
そう。クマちゃん、車を回してください。
了解っす。
もしもし、大石さん。
Oh, this is great. I know how this is going to end.
もしもし。大丈夫です。ちゃんと聞こえてますよ。
There was something wrong with Maibara-kun. That wasn't a normal coughing sound. Vomiting? Or was it blood? Had he already been attacked? Was he injured?
前原さん、今そこに警官が向かってます。2、3分で到着しますから、なんとか持ちこたえてください。
I'm just remembering the scene from anime. Jesus Christ.
もしもし、聞こえてますか？前原さん。
I could hear on the other end of the line that he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head. Yeah, it's nothing more than a cold. Just a lovely little cold.
前原さん、犯人は誰です？何人なんです？
俺も最初は人間が犯人なんだと思いました。
Yeah, like me. Maybe he read too much and is losing his voice. That's definitely what's happening to me, so you know what that means. Ah, delicious beer. I couldn't tell if that was cough or vomiting.
大丈夫ですか？前原さん。
犯人は人間なんだって
お社様のたたりなんかないんだって。ついさっきまで。だけど、やっぱり。
The voice acting is pretty goddamn good, I must admit. It was an intense bout of coughing, then vomiting.
やっぱり、お社様ってのは。いや、います。今。
前原さん、どうか落ち着いて。
なんかさっきからおかしいと思ってたんです。ずーっとつけてくるんですよ。走っても走っても走っても走っても影みたいにぴったりくっついて。
Oyashiro sounds like a friendly fellow, just always having your back.
だけど少しずつ俺の背中ににじり寄ってくるんです。
前原さん、そいつは今ひょっとして前原さんの後ろに
すぐ後ろに。
お願いです、前原さん。怖いのはわかります。ですがお願いです。あなたの後ろに誰がいるんです？
振り向けるわけないじゃないですか。振り向いたら俺
怖いのはわかります。でも教えてほしい。ちょっと振り返るだけでいいんです。前原さんの後ろに誰がいるんです？
Right after that I said that I could hear him vomiting intensely. What followed was a nightmarish sound.
前原さん、あんたまさか喉を引っかいてたりはしないでしょうね。
Yeah. There was no answer, but I could hear something like scratching. Oh my god! Oh, the manga is just too good. The manga is fantastic. Jesus Christ, man. Oh wow, that is excessively gory. There was a bang, as if something was being hit. Mabara-kun had probably dropped the receiver. I could hear groaning and vomiting over on the other hand, and a repeating abnormal noise.
もしもし、もしもし、前原さん、もしもーし。
I knew how far away my voice would sound on the other end, but I couldn't help but shout. At that moment I hear whispering coming from the other end. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Or was he talking to someone there?
もしもし、前原さん。
Rather than whispering, it was some kind of mantra he was chanting over and over. I focused my senses, trying to pick up what he was saying. What was he repeating? What exactly? Beep. Suddenly the line went dead. Did he use up his time? It was because it was a payphone. It was because it cut out so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind.
おいさん、車は OK っす。おいさん。
ごめんなさい。
おいさん。
That's lovely. That's what he was repeating over and over. He said, I'm sorry. I had a gut feeling. There was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi. spilling from the open window. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying any attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Were they trying to tell me something? Only the Higurashi knew. That's how I felt. July 1983. In Hinamisawa, a remote village near Shishibona City, there was a murder involving 2 female students. Suspect is Keiji Maebara, aged 1x. The suspect called over his 2 female classmates, Reno Ryugumi and Sonosaki, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the 2nd floor of his house. The inside of the room was covered with significant quantity of splattered blood, and there were signs of struggle with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime... Let me put the auto mode advanced speed a little bit slower. In addition to the scene of crime, the entryway, living room and the kitchen had all had traces of struggle. At the entryway, the shoe rack and wall had evidence of being impacted by a strong blunt force. It is believed to have been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no traces of blood, it is believed that destruction occurred before the murders. There is the possibility that the suspect overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back, then thrown aside. It is hard to believe that this had a connection to the struggle with the victims, thus the reason for this remains unknown. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart and its contents were spread out on the floor. Garbage was strewn about in the surrounding area and handprints believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It is believed that the suspect had for some reason taken out the garbage and struck it with his fists. The reason for this remains unknown. In addition, there was a note stuck to the fridge. The words "Was there a needle?" were written on it. The meaning behind this remains unclear. Just in case, the garbage was searched, but the needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional, it had been left open ever since the suspect moved in. The garage door was found closed. The suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. The reason behind this remains unknown. The suspect fled the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer in Hinamizawa local PD found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time of discovery, the suspect was unconscious in a critical condition. He was rushed to a local hospital for treatment but did not regain consciousness and died 24 hours later. The results of the autopsy indicate the immediate cause of death had been hypovolemic shock. It was determined that the suspect had clawed out his own throat with his fingernails, and the resulting bleeding caused his death. With the similarity to the death of Tomitake-san the prior week, the police believed there to be a connection and have opened an investigation. However, due to the wishes of the local authorities, it will be a confidential investigation. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected that drugs were involved, but as with Tomitake-san, no traces were discovered. What prompted all this remains inexplicable. As such, this case is being treated as an act committed on impulse. However, the several Jesus fucking Christ. However, with several accounts on the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident, it is possible that this was premeditated. Separated from his group of friends, isolation, inexplicable behavior. Several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observed displaying aggressive behavior as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates have actually heard portions of what he was saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared to his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police have begun an investigation on the possibility that this crime was not committed on impulse, but was planned several days ago. Afterwards, Jesus, have some mercy, game, have some mercy. A note was found in the suspect's room that he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets from B5 college rule notebook that had been torn in half. As if trying to conceal it, it was stuck hidden in the clock. Hidden behind a clock on the wall. The contents are as written here in the appendix. Let me take a sip of water because holy shit, this is a murder on my throat. Luckily not as much as Keiichi, but you know, still quite a bit of a strain. What could that mean? The police believed it to be strongly related to the incident. Police changed their line of investigation based on the possibility that the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubts on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulsive or premeditated? The situation unclear and no further development. The situation unclear and no further developments. The case has been labeled as unresolved. However, the following year, the suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written on 2 halves of B5 from 2 separate sheets. It was originally a single sheet of B5 paper. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. Yeah, the game is killing me as repentance. It is highly probable that the person who eliminated the lines in question is not the suspect. In addition, judging from traces of large quantities of cell phone tape being stuck to the back of the clock, speculation that something other than the note was stuck here was written. Note was stuck there has arisen. The person who was first discovered the crime was the detective rumored to have connection with the incident, Kuraudo Oishi. He underwent voluntary questioning but denies involvement in any damages to the note. The suspect's note. I, Keiichi Maebara, am in fear for my life. I do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Rena and Mion are conspirators to the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is all on the first sheet. Everything below this has been ripped out. This from the second sheet. Everything above has been ripped out. I have no idea why it has become like this. If you are reading this, then I am probably already dead. So the only difference may be the presence or lack of body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. Keiichi Maebara. Oh, not that bad, not that bad. I have done speed reading before, but usually the text stays on the paper when you're reading it. Higurashi. New scenario. All cast review session. What could that mean? We'll move on to manga in a different video, but in the next part of the recording. But let me just pause the recording for a second.